Hear that. Caddy, let me play a little bit more from an officer here discussing, I guess, what has become this back and forth about theater and entertainment. Take a look.
What does concern me is the fact that, those entertainers have an audience, and that audience takes their words and, the rhetoric that they use as more than just entertainment. They think it's real. And that thought process has real-life consequences, and we saw the results of that on January 6th.
Caddy, there's something a little, I guess it's disturbing that someone in this position has to go out here as an officer and engage on all this. I mean, I get what's happening. I also think, in a way, it's a sad statement about where we're at. But he's sort of doing the work through what is this committee process and through that interview I just showed to remind people that it's not all fun and games and quote-unquote rhetoric, and don't take him literally when this is the result, Caddy.
Yeah, I mean, it's depressing that these officers who went through, as they said, hell on January the 6th to defend members of Congress have to wake up to the fact that those members of Congress say they're too busy to even listen to their testimony during the hearing. I mean, the level of disrespect, just on a human, personal level, seems pretty astonishing. I mean, Officer Fanone in that interview also kind of quite rightly said, understood the theatrics of this and said that when you get people mocking the police officers for what they said during their testimony, it was a kind of an indication of weakness, really, from the other side. I mean, he said, look, I've testified before defense lawyers before, and I know in a courtroom when they start coming out with the theatrics, that's where they're on the weakest ground. And he had a full understanding of that. I just thought that the two things of mocking them and then saying, well, actually, we just didn't even have time to watch, just shows the level of disrespect that Republican members of Congress seem to be showing to these officers who gave so much on that day.
David?
Well, when I look at what's happening, it reminds me of Stalinism. Stalinism was a cult of personality, and one real big tenet of it was denial. They would airbrush people out of photos to make believe they never existed. Donald Trump cannot survive with an accurate depiction of what happened on January 6th, particularly his own role in what he did that day. He just can't survive politically with that. It's too much to have a president cheering on and doing nothing and inciting a riot. It may work with 30% of the country who are MAGA already, but he can't survive. So it has to be denied. That means these officers and their accounts have to be denied or mocked or not looked at, not given credit to. And so you have members of the Republican Party, and there was a wonderful exchange yesterday between Congressman Jamie Raskin and Congressman Clyde, right, who said that they were just tourists. When Clyde could not bring himself to say,
tourists, yeah.
Well, okay, they weren't like tourists.
David, I didn't know you were going to bring that up, but our crack beat team here has that ready. So let's have you share more of your thoughts on this moment on the other side. But for those who haven't seen it, let's take a look.
Watching the TV footage of those who entered the Capitol and walked through statuary halls showed people in an orderly fashion staying between the stanchions and ropes, taking videos and pictures. If you didn't know the TV footage was a video from January 6th, you would actually think it was a normal tourist visit. Those are your words.
And I stand by that exact statement as I said it.
I mean, in 1984, the epitome of what the party does to people is that you have to say 2 + 2 is 5. Until the party can get you to say that, it hasn't fully won. And this is what Donald Trump is doing. January 6th didn't happen, or it was just tourists, or it was Antifa and BLM. It was everything but what happened. And so it's painful to see these victims who are brutalized trying to save our democracy, be challenged in this way. But I think they get it. I was very impressed. I think they know what they're up against, and to defend democracy doesn't just entail standing there in front of the hordes and physically restraining them from going after Mike Pence, Nancy Pelosi, and others. It also means getting out there and beating up the denialists and just saying again and again, we're fighting not just for democracy, but for reality.
Well, and that moment stood out, and Michael, that was Congressman Clyde there, who said, quote, I have it here, he said, quote, I stand by that exact statement as I said it, which is reminiscent of one of the pieces of internet culture where people say, I said what I said. But properly used, that's a phrase that affirms something that might have been a little spicy or might have offended someone, but is supposed to be a true thing, you know? Like, I said what I said, David Corn listens to too much Bob Dylan. And then he says, how dare you? There's no such thing. And I say, I said what I said. That's the lighthearted version. The tragic version is you have a member of Congress in broad daylight amidst this hearing, amidst this news. Everyone's been reminded. The officers spoke. The video's up there. And he's doubling down on, yep, he lied about it. He's a liar. And he's lying in the service of white nationalist terrorists who tried to overthrow democracy, who got people killed. What do you do with that?
Well, I mean, your question actually rather answers itself. I mean, if you've got nowhere to go in your lie and it's exposed for what it is. I mean, look, I know what the congressman was saying. He was saying if you took a snapshot of that moment in time when there was the visual of those individuals walking through the Capitol from someplace to somewhere else where they were, you know, that particular group happened to be a little bit orderly. Yeah, you could make that case. That's what he wants us to believe. Believe that snapshot of you know, 1 minute out of 4 hours of riotous insurrectionist behavior. So that's the narrowing, the 1984 moment he wants you to latch on to. That's the Stalinist, the sort of kind of, hey, we're going to make you feel good. To David's point, we're going to excise out of the visual the rest of the story, everything else that you're watching. Just focus on those people walking casually and orderly on their way to do destruction, on their way looking for the vice president to hang him with the scaffolds that are outside. That part of the conversation, the congressman doesn't want to acknowledge, because to acknowledge that proves his lie. And when you've got nowhere to go with your lie, the only thing you can do, baby, is hunker down and hold on, which is what you saw him do, which is the modern day version of I said what I said.
Caddy?
Yeah, you know, what was extraordinary about the hearing yesterday was not just the officer's testimony. It was that we saw yet more new video that we hadn't seen before, which from Officer Fanone's body camera, we saw the new video of Officer Hodges having his head, you know, crushed in that doorway. We hadn't seen some of that. And it was impossible to look at that and repeat the kinds of things that some Republican members have said in the past and have been saying today, which is why you had Republican members say, Ashley, I didn't see it. Because if you saw it, if you just watched the video, let alone listen to the testimony, let alone listen to the heartbreak of the people who had been there trying to defend members of Congress, you couldn't possibly say the things that you've been saying about January the 6th. The two images, those images don't add up with the words. So you have people saying, well, I was too busy, I was in meetings all day.
Yeah. It can't coexist, as you say. And saying you're in meetings, if you do the thought experiment, it's like, would anyone say that out loud about the 9/11 Commission or any other such national security failing where it was understood, notwithstanding other differences, that you cared about this? Because to be in government and claim not to care about it, not to even look, it would itself be deemed an abdication. Michael, Caddy, and David, thanks to each of you. Coming up, we are tracking the Senate vote, as mentioned. This is the bipartisan jobs and infrastructure deal. It's hugely important to President Biden, and there are signs, they say, we're going to track the vote, that they have a breakthrough. Also, a major call from DOJ it is not going to do anything to help a Trump ally under fire for the other piece of what